Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Super Bowl edition of First and North, where we give you our thoughts on Super Bowl 59, seen right here on Fox, and we'll also dig into the NFC North, keep you up to date on all the happenings in the division and around the NFL. All right, joining me on this week's edition of First and North, the voice of the Detroit Lions, Dan Miller, from Fox in Milwaukee, Tim Van Vooren, and from Fox Minneapolis, Dawn Mitchell. All right, guys, just a few days away from the Super Bowl. It was the talk of the sports world until the NBA stepped in and changed the landscape of the sport with the Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade over the weekend. Like many others, I don't know about you guys, I thought it was a fake tweet when I saw it sent on Twitter. I'm still stunned, to be honest with you, even though I saw Anthony Davis talk about it and Luka had a press conference in L.A. regarding the trade. But I want to tie this in with the NFL. And Dan, I'll start with you. What would be the equivalent of this in the NFL? The equivalent of this trade? I just couldn't think of one this large.
I would imagine it would probably be, take quarterback 2, 3, or 4 in the NFL and trade them without talking to any other teams to a different team. Because I think Luka's the second best player in the league. And Dallas didn't talk to anybody except for L.A. and traded him for an injury-prone 31-year-old center who is going to the Hall of Fame and is a heck of a player. But on no level did it make any sense. So, I mean, I would just guess find the guy that's not Patrick Mahomes, because they didn't trade Nikola Jokic. So find out who's not Patrick Mahomes, trade them without doing an open market type deal where you try to drive up the price, shock everybody with the fact that you're doing it, and I think that's your equivalent of an NFL trade.
Tim, last week when we had Lily on, we talked about the Saquon Barkley move, and I actually referenced when Reggie White went to the Packers. I mean, Packers never made a deal like this, did they?
Unless, I mean, some of us are old enough, Dawn probably notwithstanding. John Hadl for 5 draft choice. You want that one? People still wince in Green Bay about John Hadl, for goodness sake. No, Packers haven't made a trade like that. Reggie White was a free agent acquisition. Much different situation. You're exactly right. I think of Herschel Walker, right? That trade.
Good one.
Ricky Williams, you think of those trades?
Yeah.
But I mean, this was such a shocker. I agree with you, Lou. People are still scratching their head wondering if it's real.
Yeah, that was a great one. Herschel Walker, I forgot about that one, and Ricky Williams with Coach Ditka. Dawn, speaking of trades, how about this? Browns All-Pro pass rusher Myles Garrett, he requested a trade on Monday. Ironically, his timing is perfect. Start of the Super Bowl week, so he's got everyone talking about it. Adam Schefter went on the Pat McAfee show. Check this out, guys. He name-dropped the Bears.
What if they said, we're trading you? I'm making this up to Chicago. Is Chicago is Chicago a Super Bowl contender right now? But what if Chicago, he feels like I think the best way of saying it, he wants to go to what he believes is a Super Bowl contender. But I think as we talk about this, I think that would be a place that he believes gives him more hope to win a Super Bowl championship than the Browns do. And there are probably multiple NFL franchises that would fall into that category.
All right, Dawn, Tim, and Dan, let me just have the floor for a second, because Myles Garrett to the Bears, confirmed. The Bears are a team desperate for a pass rusher, but after I thought about it for 24 hours, I can't in good conscience meet the asking price of 2 number ones that I hear Cleveland's floated out there. The Bears need offensive line help. They need to build that offensive line now, not over the next 3 years. They need to do it now with Caleb Williams on his rookie contract. The Bears need to get through the draft and free agency and pick up 3 starters for that offensive line this offseason. They need to put Williams in the best possible position to succeed. Ben Johnson as well. They paid the guy $13 million a year to snag the top head coaching candidate, and they are now going to put him in the best position. They need to be able to run the football as well. 68 quarterback sacks, unacceptable. No running game, unacceptable. The Bears do not have 3 to 4 years to build the Lions or Eagles offensive line. Next season, that O-line may not be a top 3 offensive line like Philadelphia and Detroit, but it can't be bottom 3 like it was this last season. let me bring it back to Myles Garrett. Every team in the NFC North would love to have this guy. Dawn, I can't even imagine how good that Minnesota defense would be if Myles Garrett was playing for Brian Flores.
You know, you're absolutely right. But when you look at the other edge rushers that they do indeed have already here, we have Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner. They're all coming back. They're all here. And so the Vikings do have some space when it comes to the cap, but they don't have any draft capital. So how much are they going to be willing to expand? Because the Vikings are in the same boat as the Bears. They need to get an offensive lineman that can help protect their quarterback. That has been kind of a thorn in their side for years here. And they have J.J. McCarthy in the wings, regardless if they do bring Sam Darnold back, they're going to have to spend money on a cornerback, on a defensive tackle, offensive lineman, a safety. So there's a lot of other positions. So I don't know. It may sound sexy for him to come to Minnesota and be with Brian Flores. I just don't see that they would spend the money and have room in the edge rushing room for a guy like Myles Garrett. And I wanted to tag on one thing. You asked everybody else about what the equivalent of the trade was, and I saw this on social media when we're going back to the Luka trade. How about this in musical terms? Somebody said, explain this Luka trade to me in girl terms. Destiny Child just traded Beyonce to TLC for Chili. So that's what I say. That's girl math right there. So if anyone's wondering, what does this mean? That's what it means. But when it comes to Myles Garrett, he would be a monster here. It would be great. But that room would be like, okay. But no B-Flow, he could move chess pieces around and keep everybody guessing. I just don't know if that would be the perfect fit money-wise, etc.
All right, Dan, I'm going to ask you about Cooper Kupp because all I keep reading about is how every expert out there thinks Cooper Kupp is going to end up in Detroit. But I want to bring it back to Garrett. Garrett teamed up with Aiden Hutchinson.
Looks good. And you know, to your Saquon Barkley point, it kind of makes you wonder, you know, Philadelphia, maybe if they win this thing this week, he was the final piece to the puzzle. And do the Lions need a final piece to the puzzle? And look, Myles Garrett to Detroit does make some sense. And some of the things that you were talking about, Lou, they've already taken care of. Their roster is stacked. They got a ton of young talent. They could afford to give up draft picks if they wanted to at this point. Now, keep in mind, it would go against the grain for the way that they've built this team, which is draft and develop. But maybe you get to a point where you say, you know what? We're on the cusp of this thing. We have a chance to get a player who's a Hall of Fame caliber talent and put him on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. Let's make a run at this thing.
All right,
Here's the reasons you might not do that real quick. Is because you still got to pay Brian Branch, you still got to pay Kirby Joseph, you got to still pay JMO, you got to pay Jahmyr Gibbs, you got to pay Laporta, you got to pay Campbell, you got to pay all these guys that are coming up, and Aiden Hutchinson is due for a new deal. So while this would look great, and let me also add this, he's going to make 20 this year, 25 next year. That's pushing the back end of the top 10 among defensive ends. Is he going to want a new contract? So it's a long way of saying I like a lot about it, but there's a lot of reasons they really have to look at it and wonder.
And you have to pay Cooper Kupp because you're going to reunite him with Jared Goff, right?
So here's the thing with Cooper Kupp. And I've long been a Cooper Kupp advocate because the league has decided that nobody has to cover him in the secondary. He's always open. But he's missed 18 games over the last 3 years. He's due to make $20 million this coming season, $19 million the year after that. He's going to have to redo that contract. He's a slot guy where they already have Amon-Ra. Look, we got Rams guys at the top of our organization, Brad Holmes and Ray Agnew. And if they love Cooper Kupp and feel like he's a fit, maybe they do it. I don't know, man. There's just a lot that's going on there in terms of age, injury, and salary that they'd have to work their way through.
Tim, we've been talking about the Packers needing a number one wide receiver. Are you going the Cooper Kupp route or T. Higgins?
I don't know that the Packers are going either of those routes because I think they believe they have internal candidates. Whether we believe that or not, they still believe they have internal candidates, even though Christian Watson is going to miss much of, if not the bulk of next season. And I don't think for instance, with T. Higgins, it kind of goes to the point of Myles Garrett. You're not just bringing in a player and have to pay him. You also have to go out and get him. You have to give up something to get him back. That's just such a break from the Packer philosophy that I think they will add to their wide receiver room. I don't think Cooper Kupp is where they would be going for that. But I'm not, and I don't think T. Higgins really is either, to be honest with you. I think the Packers just feel we're building, and we're going to keep doing it largely with the way we've done it. I see them taking kind of a doubles swing. I don't see them taking a home run swing in this offseason.
All right. Monday night, I touched on it. It was Super Bowl opening night, media night, coaches and players, fair game for a few thousand reporters. I know we have all been there over the course of our careers. Eagles, Saquon Barkley, teasing Bears fans. He said that he came pretty damn close to becoming a Bear. As a Bears fan, that stings, but we will leave it at that. I want to take a quick time out because we have a lot to get to. I want to get into the Super Bowl. Coming up, Ben Johnson, he continues to add to his coaching staff. He's getting rave reviews with the people he's bringing in. And we'll discuss Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs embracing being the villain. We'll recap his comments, all that and more coming up as we return on First and North.
Dr. Larson has no recollection of the last 8 years.
Doc is TV's best new medical drama.
I need to know.
And you can watch it anytime.
I will be a doctor again.
Doc, all new Tuesdays on Fox and watch anytime on Hulu.
All right, welcome back here to First and North. Lou Canellis with you at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago. Let's bring back the crew. Dan Miller is at Fox in Detroit. Tim Van Voren, Fox Milwaukee. Dawn Mitchell, Fox Minneapolis. This past weekend, the NFL Pro Bowl, plenty of representation, that is, from the NFC North, especially with the Vikings' Byron Murphy winning Defensive MVP. I'm going to bring back Dawn, and I want Tim to chime in as well. Dawn, I read a story where Murphy is set to leave Minnesota for Green Bay. Any truth to this?
I haven't heard any truth for it, but let me tell you, this kid is going to get his payday, and it's well due, and it's upwards and going to be the $22 million per year. Can the Vikings afford to keep that? Listen, they would love to keep this kid. He's a great guy. He's great in the locker room. He's really worked, and he's succeeded and flourished under Brian Flores, but it's time now for him to get his paycheck. He's making now what? He has a 2-year, $17.5 million deal. We all know what happens when you play well, and then you show out, not only Pro Bowl. I mean, do we really pay attention to the Pro Bowl anymore? But anyway, all season long, part of that defense that had a takeaway in every single game of the regular season, and he had like 7 or something like that. Just a good kid who's going to get his payday. I have heard that he is a flight risk to go to Green Bay, and we all know that there's been a lot of that over the past couple of years, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it might be a top priority for the Vikings to try to keep him on the defensive side because they are thin in the secondary. If you look at next year, and especially so at cornerback, it just depends on how expensive he is going to be.
Tim, what are you hearing in Green Bay?
Well, first of all, I'm just captivated by the Pro Bowl. I haven't really come down from watching that action over the weekend. And, the trivia questions and helmet harmony. I mean, it's just overwhelming. But in terms of the moves that we're going to see with players, I do think the Packers are going to be semi-aggressive. As I said a moment ago, kind of the double swing this offseason. They have money coming off the books. Aaron Rodgers, David Bakhtiari. Maybe they free up Jair Alexander money, for instance. So they have more money than they've had to use in the recent seasons. And I think you kind of see in the NFL, you have to spend some of that. You have to bring in some players beyond just draftees. So I would think Murphy's a target for the Packers. I think there are other players that have some notoriety in the league that Green Bay would be more interested in this offseason and in the past. And I think there will be additions on that defensive side of the ball. They believe a lot in defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, who's only been in Green Bay 1 year, but they really think give him some pieces, he can impact football games.
Dan, is there any way to make the Pro Bowl entertaining?
I just don't. I think they've tried everything. I don't know what you do. Look, these guys don't want to go with contact. They don't want to get hurt. So you're just trying to come up with something that is mildly entertaining, and flag football appears to be as close as they can. I mean, if you want to go on a scale of being mildly entertaining, I would say what we saw some offensive players playing defense and people scoring, 150 points between the two teams. Look, it's just a really tough sell. The NBA All-Star Game has become a joke, watching that thing. Teams, leagues try to figure out a way to do it, but it's just hard because of what's at stake with careers. And in particular in the NFL, when you're talking about live contact, which guys just don't want to do. Nobody wants to see their career impacted by something that happens in a Pro Bowl. So it's a tough ask.
I know. It looks it. Dawn, I want to go back to you about the Vikings. How about this? 25 pending free agents, 10 starters from this past season. Where's Minnesota going to start?
Whew, that's a great question. And Kwesi was wheeling and dealing when it came to free agency last year, right? So now he's going to have to really take stock. I mean, the big names, of course, Cam Bynum. Do they want Aaron Jones back, or are they going to go to the draft to try to get a running back? Do they keep him? He loved it here. He was saying how much he enjoyed it. No offense, Tim, to Green Bay, right? He loves his Green Bay brethren, but he really came here and embraced it. And, of course, Sam Darnold, they're going to slap a franchise tag. So you said it, Lou. 25 free agents. They have their work cut out for them. And let's go back to it. You don't have a lot of draft capital. You've got a lot of cap space. So they're going to have to, once again, make their splash when it comes to free agency. So who's important, who's not, who do you bring back? That's why I think the locker room was so sad after their last game, because not only in the fashion that they laid an egg, but the team that they loved so much. It was probably the most cohesive locker room I've ever been around. They knew it was going to be obliterated. Not one or two guys leaving. It's going to be all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see how Kwesi kind of pieces this and stitches it all together. But they need help in that safety room because if Harrison Smith doesn't come back, Josh Metellus has not, even though he's technically a safety, he's been used all over linebacker. B-Flow kind of moves him around. But who are you going to have there? Cam Bynum was the guy at safety, and there's also a couple of other guys, but you have to try to bring him back. You have to bring Byron Murphy back. What do you do at quarterback? This is why I'm glad I'm not in the front office, but this will be a telltale offseason for sure.
Yeah, that's why he's getting a new deal. Here in Chicago, Ben Johnson has brought in what many are claiming is one of the better coaching staffs in football. More experienced, that's for sure. Today, the Bears announced that Richard Smith is the linebackers coach. This guy's going to be going into his 47th season as an NFL head coach. And this past weekend, they named Eric Bieniemy as the running backs coach. From an outside perspective, Dan Campbell had one heck of a staff in Detroit. I want you to give me your thoughts on this Bears staff for a first-time head coach. Are you liking what you're seeing here in Chicago?
No, I am, and I think he's approaching it the right way. And that in Dennis Allen, you have a guy who's been a head coach before. Eric Bieniemy's been at the top of coaching staffs before. I know Antoine Randall, he's going to be a heck of a coach for you guys there. So, look, I think this is the right way to do it when you're a first-time head coach. Surround yourself with experience and sounding boards and guys that have been there before that you can work through things if you have to. Ben's a confident guy. I think he's going to have his own way of doing things, but this is exactly how I would do it. And one of the ways that Dan Campbell did it when he came in here, and Dan really leaned on former NFL players, and that was kind of what people took away from his initial staff. Now, they made some changes after that. There's a new offensive coordinator that came through. Anthony Lynn was go. Ben Johnson became the OC. But the strength of Dan Campbell has been that coaching staff and the way they've been able to develop players. So I think Ben's doing it the right way to get guys around him that have been there and can kind of fill in some of the holes where maybe you don't have that experience as a head coach.
All right, good. I really respect your opinion. I want to shift our focus to the Super Bowl. Media night, Patrick Mahomes asked if the Chiefs are embracing the role of villain. Take a listen.
We believe we play the game the right way. We believe that we play with a lot of heart and a lot of passion for the game. And then we win football games. And if winning football games makes you a villain, we're going to keep going out there and doing it.
All right, Tim, what are your thoughts on what Mahomes had to say?
Well, there's some truth to just his point there about winning football games. A lot of people despised the Patriots when they were winning football games. A lot of people, against the Yankees when they were dominating baseball. And then suddenly those things turn around. I think the optics of the officiating with the Chiefs as they have gone along definitely plays into that as well. And it's the same guys. You know, it used to be you knew the guys on every football team. They came back year after year after year everywhere. That really isn't true in a lot of places now. You see so much turnover. We're talking about big-name players who might move this offseason as well. Whereas in Kansas City, aside from the receiving core, they really keep a lot of those guys together. So you've seen this team playing this time of year, oftentimes against the very same teams like the Bills or now the Eagles again. So you do kind of get that almost fatigue of the Chiefs being there because they're so good. I don't personally see them as villains, but I understand in the society that we're in today, kind of the fresh new flavor appeals to other people as well.
Yeah, the evil empire that we used to call the Yankees. I'm going to end with you, Dawn. I asked Dan last week if a Chiefs win for Patrick Mahomes would lift Mahomes past Tom Brady as the greatest of all time. And Dan had some great stats. I want to hear, Dawn, your thoughts. What do you think? Does Mahomes pass up Brady if he pulls off the three-peat?
Well, you know, you have to look at it in terms of how young he is and how quickly he's done it. So he has to definitely be in the conversation. But you're also talking to a native New Englander here, right? So, and Tom Brady has had to take on the NFL and other things that were outside noise in order to overcome and do that, and then go ahead and do it in Tampa. So I think they're in two different leagues. But yes, I think Mahomes definitely has to be in that conversation if he pulls this off again. I don't know about you. You know, I think the Yankees were terrible even if they won or lost. So, Tim, I'm not with you on that. I just think being from New England, I hate the Yankees, right? But I don't like hating a team because they win. For one, I am torn. I want Saquon Barkley and I want Hurts to play well because I think that they're fantastic. I'm not tired of seeing this team scramble, pull it off, and do something. I'm tired of the whole referee conversation, and yes, they do get the favorable call sometimes, but yes, I think he's in the conversation to move Brady out of the way. I think he's done it at a quicker, faster pace, and he's got so much more to look forward to. So it's a yes with an asterisk for me.
All right.
But
all right.
I'm biased.
Hey, Lou, let me just remember this, too, Lou. It's kind of the same thing we tried to do with Tiger. And look, the start to Mahomes' career is insane, but we just assumed all along Tiger was going to pass Jack Nicklaus. And while Tiger can be the GOAT in some respects, he never caught him in terms of majors.
And I know I'm going to speak on behalf of Dan. I can't wait for the day when people hate the Bears and the Lions because we keep winning Super Bowls. Back after this.
Stroopstork is known for cheese, laundry, and bowling.
You gotta be kidding me.
Going Dutch, all new Thursdays on Fox.
All right, NFL season has come down to one final game. Will Philadelphia spoil the Chiefs' chances to three-peat? Let's bring in the crew. I'm going to start with you, Tim. Give me 30 seconds. I want your pick and why.
Well, this is the 2024 NFL football season, so it's the Chiefs in a close game, of course. That's what's happened all year long. 30-28 Kansas City. If people are tired of them or not, they get a three-peat. But against that graphic you had up there, the Packers won 3 in a row, just not 3 Super Bowls in a row.
Oh, Dawn. Go ahead, Dawn.
Oh, I didn't know that you said Dawn. Yes, I agree. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be Kansas City. I have 30-27, and I just think it's going to be a scramble at the end. No offense to Philadelphia, but I think it is going to be Kansas City's Super Bowl once again.
All right, we've got 2 for the Chiefs. How about it, Dan?
I'm going contrarian. I'll go Philadelphia. I just love the way they're peaking, I think, at the right time. I love the way their defensive front is playing, and those young guys have really come on and started to figure things out. I think they can get after Mahomes a little bit, maybe force a mistake or two, and I think their offense with Saquon Barkley will have a nice day as well. I just think Philadelphia is maybe playing the best football of anybody right now.
I think that Dan is spot on. The Eagles are playing the best football. I love what Vic Fangio has done with that Eagles defense. I love Saquon Barkley, and I'm going to pick the Chiefs because I just can't pick anyone to beat. Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and I think just to upset the world, the villains win on a last-second field goal. Great work, guys. For Dan, Tim, and Dawn, I'm Lou. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week here on First and North.